Good morning and welcome to Korea Today, live from Seoul.
The presidents of South Korea and Vietnam have agreed to seal a comprehensive free trade agreement by next year and cooperate on nuclear power development.
Former military dictator Chun Doo-hwan's eldest son is scheduled to hold a press conference later today. Details coming up in the headlines. Have you bought your Chuseok gifts yet? We'll tell you what the trend is this year, coming up on In Print.
And Korea's efforts to deter increasing suicide rate. That's coming up next.
The ambitious unveiling of Samsung's smartwatch, Galaxy Gear. What does the launch of this smart device mean? And what can we expect to see in the future of wearables? And when you look in the mirror, are you concerned about that receding hairline? Hair loss can lead to stress, which can lead to even more hair loss. Dr. Yoon Sung-eun has some advice on Tuesday, September 10th, 2013.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome to Korea Today.
And a happy Tuesday to you. Happy Tuesday. Are you happy?
Yes, very happy.
All right. Now, speaking of happiness, the World Happiness Report 2013 was just released, and South Korea was ranked at number 41. Over 150 countries were ranked in this report that was published by the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and Korea hit 41 with a score of, get this,
That's
6.627. And 6.267, and that was much higher than the world average of 5.1.
Much higher? A tad bit.
A tad bit, but significant, right?
All right, well, it's such an interesting report. And among East Asian countries, Koreans were found to be the happiest, followed by Taiwanese and Japanese in that order. And North Korea was not included in this survey, although we would like to know how happy they are. But it's interesting to note that since 2005, the level of happiness among Koreans has been increasing, which hopefully means that Koreans are becoming, by and large, happier and happier. And on that note, try to have a happy Tuesday, right?
That's right. Happiness is rather important. This report concludes by mentioning that leaders such as President Park Geun-hye and others are including well-being of citizens as a part at the forefront of their policies. So it's important to keep your people happy.
That's right. On this happy Tuesday, we'll begin Korea Today with a look at the day's headlines.
President Park Geun-hye, who's on her third official overseas trip since taking office, has met with Vietnamese leader Truong Thanh Sang on Monday. The two leaders have agreed to sign a free trade agreement pact by next year and also up their bilateral trade volume to $70 billion by the year 2020.
오늘 우리 두 정상은 양국이 지난 20여 년간 이룩한 성과를 토대로 전략적 협력 동반자 관계를 더욱 내실 있고 호혜적으로 발전시켜 나가기로 하였습니다.
With Vietnam planning to build 10 nuclear reactors by the year 2030, the two countries also decided to continue working together in nuclear power plant development. The Vietnamese president also vowed to support Korean companies so they can take part in its other energy infrastructure projects, such as the construction of thermal power plants and oil storage facilities. South and North Korea will start their second joint management committee meeting for the Inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex in a few hours. The two sides are looking to set a date for reopening the business park. The meeting will begin at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Now that the military hotline between the two Koreas near the West Sea has been restored, insiders say the doors could be open as early as before the Chuseok holiday, which starts next Wednesday. Reconnecting the hotline was one of Seoul's preconditions for resuming operations at the complex, as it's the only communication channel that can guarantee the safety of the South Koreans working at the business park. Former military dictator Chun Doo-hwan's eldest son, Jae-guk, is scheduled to hold a press conference this Tuesday at 3 p.m. Korea time. He's expected to announce how the Chun family will pay off the former president's remaining fines of more than $150 million. Chun Doo-hwan, who ruled Korea for almost a decade in the 1980s, was ordered by the Supreme Court in 1997 to pay over $200 million for having staged a coup and accepting bribes. Now, over the past 16 years, Chun only paid about $50 million, claiming he was broke to pay the rest. At today's conference, Chun's son is also expected to offer a public apology on behalf of his father, who will not be there due to health reasons. The feud between ruling and opposition parties is showing no signs of easing at the National Assembly. On Monday, ruling party chairman Hwang Woo-yeok condemned the main opposition party for forming a political alliance with minor opposition Unified Progressive Party. UPP's lawmaker Lee Seok-gi has been accused and arrested for having close ties with a North Korean espionage group.
People in the political arena need to look back and see whether they have or continue to be host of pro-North Korean groups that have hurt democracy and acted as parasites on the principles of liberal democracy.
But the main opposition Democratic Party chairman continued to criticize President Park for not apologizing for the nation's spy agency's alleged meddling in last year's presidential election.
The only reason why Chancellor Merkel keeps apologizing for Nazis' atrocities is because she is the leader of Germany. Chancellor Merkel doesn't say, "I don't need to apologize because I am not directly responsible for it."
More than a week has passed since September's regular session started. Experts point out that the political wrangling needs to stop in order to get parliamentary activities going before the session ends.
And good morning, everyone. President Park Geun-hye's third day in Vietnam makes some of the top stories on the front pages today. So let's go ahead and kick off our look at the front pages on this Tuesday with 중앙일보. The front page image shows the president clad in black, hunching down there to tie a ribbon on the wreath laid at the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum in Hanoi on Monday, according to Vietnamese tradition. The title reads, "Untangling Knots from Father's Era," and highlighting the tribute to Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam's late communist leader there, as the president's gesture to heal old wounds between the two countries, as her late father, then President Park Geun-hye, had sent troops to Vietnam during the Vietnam War to fight on the side of the Americans. Now, the paper takes note of the wordless tribute by President Park, contrary to some past Korean presidents who had offered words of contrition. To the dismay of some back at home, her staff explained hers as a tribute powerful in its silence. Now, the red ribbon on the wreath spells out Korean President Park Geun-hye, and the wreath itself is adorned with flowers indigenous to Vietnam called Hoa Tai Bang. And moving on over to our next newspaper, 동아일보 now. It chose to put its focus on the meeting the president had with her Vietnamese counterpart, President Tuong Tan Sang. And the headline reads, "Korea-Vietnam leaders agree to seal high-level FTA next year." And the sub-headline goes on to explain that the promise to finalize a high-level comprehensive free trade agreement likely means that tariffs on some 90% of trade items will be lifted. And as you heard, the two sides also agreed to triple the trade goal from the achieved figure last year to $70 billion by the year 2020. The joint statement issued also included a note that the two countries will continue their cooperation on nuclear energy development. And we'll leave that story there for now and head on over to 조선일보 next. It continues its series on the new middle age, the main headline noting their growing buying power there. But let's go ahead and take a look at the headline to the left as it reflects a big local story on Monday. The headline reads, Chon Du-hwan household pledges to pay out all of the fines owed, previewing the official statement to be made by the former president's eldest son at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Now, along with an apology, he is expected to lay out a specific plan to pay off the more than $150 million Chon Du-hwan owes the state. And the article says it is anticipated that the former president's 4 children and in-law will contribute to the payoff fund. Scooting right over to Gyeongyang Shinmun now, its headline raises concern, this time in academia. The headline reads, "A world where college lectures are also reported to the NIS," citing one lecturer author who told the paper that a student had reported him to the nation's spy agency for having anti-capitalistic and anti-American thought. This 38-year-old lecturer taught a class in Marxian economics, the paper says, and told Gyeongyang that he is not the first lecturer to have been reported at the university. And finally, let's take a look at our business newspaper for today. Made Business newspaper has this headline, which we will take a look at. The thin wallet and light Chuseok gifts. The national holiday of Chuseok, of course, is just around the corner, sneaking up upon us next week. It is also a big gift-giving season here in Korea, and the article reports that this year the buzzword is thrifty gifts under 40,000 won, or roughly $40, as low-priced items like socks are popular this year, as are pre-order gifts that offer a discount.
Eunice, not to interrupt, but thrift gifts is all good, but I don't know about socks. What do you think?
Hey, it takes a
As
great
gifts?
burden off my back. Hey, Dad, here's a pair of socks. Everyone's doing it these
Well,
days.
also like
Feet, right?
right. Christmas gifts, more like, not Chuseok.
Right. You know, I have to be honest, I thought the same thing, but it actually says pre-orders for sock sets was up by 89.4%.
That's quite a lot. Interesting.
All right, expect a pair of socks from me this Chuseok, okay?
All right, well, with that, we will wrap your look at what's in print on this Tuesday. Next up are your closing numbers from Monday's market action.
President Park Geun-hye is now in Vietnam. She is set to...
Yeah, we're going to hold off on that for
That's
now.
right.
It's 7:12 a.m.
Get a check on the weather first before we go to President Park Geun-hye. First things first,
We're going to
our
President
Dami.
Tommy.
President
of
Tommy
Korea
is
today.
waiting, standing by. Good morning,
morning.
Dami. I missed...
Yes, a nice surprise this morning. Good morning, Minjung and Young and everyone else. I'm reporting live from Gwacheon, Gyeonggi Province. This morning, we're starting this Tuesday off with mostly cloudy skies. Also, fairly foggy this morning as well. Looks like the sun is nowhere to be seen as it is hiding behind the clouds. Now, this morning temperatures are at 19 degrees Celsius. Here in Gyeonggi Province and over in Seoul, some areas may see signs of sporadic showers. We will be seeing mostly cloudy skies throughout the day. Also, Seoul, Gyeonggi, Gangwon, and South Chungcheong Province may see some showers throughout the day, and then it will momentarily lull. However, it'll return later in the evening, starting with South and North Chungcheong Province. And then for tomorrow, it looks like most of the nation will be seeing precipitation, so be prepared for that. Let's now get a check on today's numbers. Over in Seoul, highs will reach up to the mid-20s, as for Daejeon as well. Daegu at 27, Gangneung at 26, and the rest of the peninsula will rise to 27 degrees. We'll likely see cloudy skies or rain in the forecast for the time being, which means our temperatures will drop slightly from these conditions. That's all for the weather. I'll be back in a few moments.
Now President Park Geun-hye, that's right. President Park Geun-hye is now in Vietnam. She is set to return home tomorrow after wrapping up her 5-day state visit to the Southeast Asian country. Because economic cooperation ranked high on the agenda, many characterize her trip as sales diplomacy.
And the president is traveling with the largest ever economic delegation of 79 members. And as you said, economic cooperation tops the priorities. And we'll get a look at the progress of her state visit.
After concluding her two-day meeting at the G20 summit in Russia, President Park Geun-hye is on her state visit to Vietnam. After holding talks with Vietnamese President Trong Ton San, the president announced a joint declaration on the coming 20 years between Korea and Vietnam, reaffirming a cooperative partnership.
It's been more than 20 years since Korea established ties with Vietnam, and it's the country that currently has the greatest amount of economic cooperation among all Southeast Asian nations. Korea has strengthened its relations with Vietnam through trade and investment, and because of this degree of cooperation out of the other ASEAN countries, that's probably why this state visit was planned.
The president, prior to her visit, had expressed a strong desire to use her trip to Vietnam as a stepping stone in her so-called sales diplomacy. She is traveling with the largest economic delegation to date. Out of the 79 members, 40 are from small and medium-sized companies, with the main focus of this trip being economic cooperation. So, why Vietnam?
Vietnam is the most dynamic country in growth out of the ASEAN bloc. So in that sense, it's a move to secure a stepping stone to the other 10 ASEAN countries economically and diplomatically.
The amount of credit assistance from Korea's Economic Development Cooperation Fund to Vietnam amounts to roughly $1.8 billion since 1995. This is the largest ratio, amounting to 21% of all overseas loans from Korea to 50 countries worldwide.
This can be seen as a long-term investment. By supporting Vietnam's industrialization and economic growth in its early stages, Korea wants to expand trade and investment so that both sides can build a stronger platform for mutual understanding and cooperation.
With Vietnam's rich natural resources, manpower, and political stability, combined with Korea's technology and capital, the two countries can create a win-win industrial environment. This is one of the main reasons for the strong cooperation between the two countries. Vietnam is a strategic location for entering the ASEAN market, and some 2,800 Korean companies are already operating in the country. Many businesses see Vietnam as a central production base for Southeast Asia and have announced plans to expand investment in the country. Another issue President Park Geun-hye has on her agenda are the free trade agreement negotiations between the two countries that opened last year in August.
Vietnam has an upper hand when it comes to agriculture and fisheries products, but Korea has its strength in the manufacturing sectors such as automobiles and information and technology. So depending on how much each side trades back and forth, it will determine the free trade agreement talks. That's why this summit meeting could provide the opportunity for both sides to take one step back and resume smooth negotiations.
The trade volume between the two countries has increased more than 40-fold over the past 21 years. Vietnam is now Korea's second largest export market in Southeast Asia after Singapore. Korea has also become the fourth largest investor in Vietnam, following Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore. Should the two countries sign a free trade agreement, it is expected to not only boost the gross domestic product, but also stimulate investment of Korean companies in Vietnam, as well as assist in further opening up the country.
Korea and Vietnam have a mutually beneficial relationship when it comes to an increase in trade and investment, because that in return further increases trade between the two sides. If investment is further boosted through a free trade agreement, and if the foundation for industrial cooperation expands, the trade volume could reach $30 billion by 2015. That's why there are expectations that the Korea-Vietnam trade relation will play an integral role in the development of the Korea-ASEAN relations.
Introducing Korea's nuclear energy is one of the crucial points of interest in the president's so-called sales diplomacy.
If the two leaders agree on overall economic cooperation and respective government ministries sign a memorandum of understanding, it will have a great effect. The nuclear power project that Vietnam is pushing for is large in scale, and because it can be an important growth engine for Korea, President Park is likely thinking of this as a business project of great importance.
The Vietnamese government announced that it will increase the use of nuclear energy to 6.3% by 2025 and 7.9% in 2030. It plans on introducing 10 nuclear reactors by the year 2030, and Korea is vying to win the bid for reactors 5 and 6 for its third nuclear power plant.
원전 건설 협력이 구체화되면 베트남 경제의 안정적 성장에 크게 기여할 뿐만 아니라 양국 간 경제 협력의 새로운 지평을 열게 될 것입니다.
Korea and Vietnam have seen exponential growth in relations since establishing diplomatic ties in 1992. With President Park Geun-hye's visit to the country, cooperation between the two sides is expected to be enhanced even further.
Still to come on Korea Today, is this a head start for Samsung Electronics and wearable smart devices? The tech giant recently unveiled its smartwatch Galaxy Gear. You can take pictures, make phone calls, and much more. We'll show you where this technology is heading.
Earlier in the show, we talked about the World Happiness Report that was just released. Incidentally, it came a day before what the World Health Organization designated as World Suicide Prevention Day today.
Suicide is the 10th main leading cause of death around the world, and Korea is no exception. Kim Chan-ju joins us to talk more about this issue. Good morning.
Good morning, Chan-ju.
Good morning. Well, Korea is actually the first among the OECD developed countries when it comes to suicide, and it has been for the last 8 years. That's a long time. And one person in 33 minutes commits suicide. That's roughly up to about 44 deaths a day. So we took a look at what is being done to prevent these unfortunate deaths.
The bridges of Han River are known as the symbol of Seoul, as well as resting spots for Seoulites. But unfortunately for some, it becomes the last place they see in their lives. For the past 5 years, a total of 849 people tried to take their lives by jumping off these bridges. The largest number of suicide attempts are made here, giving these places the unwanted title of suicide bridges. But there are also people who are trying to save lives on this river. The Han River Rescue Team in Gwangjin-gu has jurisdiction over Gangil-dong, Gwangdong-gu leading to the Pampo Bridge area. They face life and death situations on a daily basis. While we are out filming, the team receives a rescue call. With an emergency alarm, the team moves swiftly to the site. Unfortunately, thanks to the law enforcement officers there, the situation comes to an end with no one harmed.
A man in his 20s tried to commit suicide by climbing up the bridge but was rescued by firefighters. Despite the high risk of suicide, in 90% of the case, people are saved by nearby rescue teams. That's why it is important that the team gets to the scene as soon as possible.
With increased suicide attempts, preventing people from committing suicide has become one of the most important tasks for the Han River Rescue Team.
We go out for rescue calls as much as 11 times a day. I think the suicide rate is increasing due to seasonal changes from summer to fall. This number is just from our station, so if we combine the rest of the rescue team stations, it will be much more.
Korea's high suicide rate has been an issue of concern for quite some time. The country has had the highest suicide rate among OECD nations for the past 8 years. The suicide rate started growing rapidly in the 1990s. In 2011, it was the fourth leading cause of death in the country, higher than car accidents. What is the reason behind the increase in Korea's suicide rate?
It can't be explained in just one sentence. I think it's very multifactorial. Some people express it as like an epidemic, social epidemic. Which means that it is brought on by social factors, and we can't just name one. We are living in a very dynamic and a difficult environment, and a lot of people are feeling lonely, or they can't turn to someone, they lack support.
According to an analysis of suicides among Koreans, mental health issues such as depression were identified as the main cause, but reasons for each age group varied. Recently, the suicide rate among teenagers and the elderly population is rapidly increasing.
Most of the suicide rate, about 67%, the numbers are by geriatric population. They don't have enough economical support, but increasing physical illness, nowhere to turn to. And the youngsters, the suicide of youngsters, it's not quite that high. Still, they are under a lot of scholastic pressure. So that is probably one. And also, not much communication, I think, among the family members.
The effort to rescue another life continues. You can find messages displayed on the Han River bridges to change people's mind and give them the courage to start over again. On this bridge at the Han River, a suicide prevention lifeline has been set up.
The live phone here has two buttons. One, you can call for the 119 rescue team to come to the scene immediately. And the other one, you can speak to the consultant 24 hours a day. When you pick up the live phone and press the button, this will detect the caller's location, which will have a faster and immediate rescue operation.
Lifeline Seoul was installed in 2011 around 6 bridges with 4 lines on each bridge. The hotline has so far prevented 163 people from attempting suicide on these bridges last year.
People who are trying to commit suicide are both thinking of dying and living at the same time. We set up the phone line to help them think once more. We have received a total of 2,100 phone calls from January to June this year. 449 of them were people in danger of committing suicide, and 53 cases were requesting help from the 119 rescue team.
For those who are feeling like they're left alone in the world, one phone call can mean everything.
The fact that they made a phone call means they have hope for their lives. As a counselor, I know how crucial it is to treat someone's life with respect, and I always remind them that their phone call is precious. I think it is very important to pay attention to someone's passing gestures and words when they seem dark and depressed.
And it seems that Chanju, it seems that there's a lot of suicides that occur between populations as well, as we saw in the report. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Of course. When I got to meet the Han River Rescue, I just realized how intense the situation was they're facing on a daily basis. And it is also important for the person who's reporting the scene to remain at the scene so that the rescue team can take over the situation.
I think one of the main reasons you said in your report that Koreans choose to end their lives is really that feeling of helplessness or depression, and it doesn't help that it's almost considered a taboo to seek therapy or help.
Exactly, and it was also the combination of rapid economic growth and lack of aid for the vulnerable population, also the people having sort of like a negative image when it comes to receiving counseling. And it's because even if you just receive very light treatment here, it stays on your medical record. So the government is trying to change that so that people can receive mental counseling but keep the records clean as long as they're not prescribed with medication.
And the problem nowadays is that it's not limited to people in the 20s to 50s, but more people in the 70s and 80s are also committing suicide.
That's right. Well, the government announced some policies in July to help curb the suicide rate and then prevent suicide. And some of them were policies to curb suicides among the teens and the 20s. They said, first of all, that they will put restrictions on the media to reporting on details of the suicide. And they're revising laws so that the information about committing suicide or about the suicide information can be blocked on the internet. And as you just mentioned, Hyung-kyung, it's not just youngsters. 1 person out of 4 who commit suicide are the elderly population. And because of the rapid aging society in Korea, the lack of welfare programs has been pointed out as one of the main reasons. So the government is trying to expand the coverage of 4 of the main severe illnesses, as well as revising basic pensions for them. So many experts I spoke to, they pointed out that the priority for the government is to establish the systematic welfare programs for these populations.
Well, a lot of the members of the senior citizen population, that if they do commit suicide, usually the reports say that the reasons are because they don't want to be a financial burden on their children and they just don't have the money. Now, the government sees this as a pressing issue, obviously, and they're doing what they can. But at the same time, is there anything else that could be done?
Well, I think it is very important for people to remember that that we need to take care of those people in need, and we need to pay attention to those people. As the counselor said from the Lifeline, just try to pay more attention to people around you, and also the elderly population. And the expert that I spoke to pointed out that it is important to also focus on the community level as well. Visit them regularly and send them letters, etc., that has proven to decrease the rate of suicide among elderly population. And also this week has been designated as the Suicide Prevention Week. So the government is trying to, will be carrying out various educational and promotional campaigns nationwide to raise awareness to the public.
Awareness leads to prevention. Thank you very much for this report, Chunju.
Thank you.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit and go to our Dami, who is joining us from the National Science Museum in Gwacheon, Gyeonggi Province. Over to you, Dami.
Woo! Okay, I'm back reporting live from the Gwacheon National Science Museum, where the Sports Science Exhibition Season 2 is taking place. So this exhibition was actually connected with last year's London Olympics in July, so it gained a lot of popularity. And right now, what I was writing is the segue. It's basically, it's a eco-friendly means of transportation, and you might have seen it in dramas or movies. But overall, here at the exhibition, you can find 28 different fundamental or IT technology through sports. And basically, the theme of this year's sports science exhibition is communicating through sports, kind of teaching children and adults about the fundamentals that are hidden within it. So if you look around, there's so many different things that you can find, starting from shooting ranges and also learning the fundamentals of different types of sports, whether it be boxing, judo, golf. And right here we have a rowing experience program that you can try out. So put my feet in there. And through this, you kind of learn the fundamentals and the science that's hidden within these sports. So I think, a lot of kids or children, even adults, would enjoy themselves here and really learn a lot about it. And so I'm dressed up from head to toe in this gear because what I'm going to try the last is this zip line. And through this, you can learn, the fundamentals of just, gravity and everything else like that. So as we walk up the stairs, so the thing is that here at the Sports Science Exhibition, it will go on until December, around 29th. However, each day there's only a certain amount of visitors there's a limitation of the visitors that are allowed each day. So make sure to go to their website and check for further details. This is your look at the Sports Science Exhibition Season 2. I'm Idami, Korea Today. Okay, I'm gonna go down now. Okay. I was never really afraid of heights, but to tell you the truth, it looks a bit intimidating. Okay, here I go. All right, Korea Today, Geronimo.
Ooh, you go, Dami, right?
Indoor zip lining there. Tani gets to have all the fun, right? But we have some fun in the studio because we get to learn about the latest gadgets. And Samsung Electronics has unveiled its smartwatch, the Galaxy Gear, ahead of all the other competitors, including Apple, Google, and Microsoft.
That's right. Only 15 days to go before we can get our hands on that smartwatch that you can make phone calls with, check emails with, all kinds of functions there. So we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the functions and some of the reviews that it's getting. So take a look.
One of Europe's largest consumer electronics exhibitions, IFA, kicked off in Berlin September 6th. And 2 days ahead of this, Samsung Electronics unveiled the smartwatch Galaxy Gear at a Samsung Mobile Unpacked event.
I believe it will become a new fashion icon around the world. Now, you've learned about our new Galaxy Note 3 and Galaxy Gear as companion devices.
The Galaxy Gear weighs 73.8 grams and has a 1.63-inch Super AMOLED touchscreen and a single-core 800 MHz processor with 4 GB in storage and a 1.9 megapixel camera. It is made of stainless steel and is available in 6 different colors. The Galaxy Gear can be voice-controlled or activated by tapping or swiping the touchscreen. The watch relies on a Bluetooth connection with the Samsung Galaxy device to make or receive phone calls. And when doing so, the watch is held up to the ear. It has a S-Voice function, so phone calls can be activated with voice recognition, and looking into schedules, setting alarms, and checking up on the weather are also possible.
I think with the release of the Galaxy Gear, it'll lead to a new culture and trend. Not only can you express your own style and individuality using your watch, it'll also transform the way people answer calls and interact with their devices.
And of course, the basic function as a watch also comes with various settings and layouts for telling the time. The 1.9 megapixel camera function is one of the most impressive features of the watch. All you need to do is point the screen towards the subject and touch the watch. The pixels may not offer the best of quality, but the camera is useful for quick snapshots. The unveiling of the smartwatch drew in crowds of reporters and consumers, showing interest in what kind of smartwatch the tech giant would come out with.
It's great. I think it's Samsung is going to open the new category of wearable computers. I think they did that 3 years ago with the phablet first Galaxy Note, and now with the watch, I think it's going to be huge.
The watch is very impressive. It is elegant, smart, small, and above all, it can do everything.
The product has received mixed reviews. Some say it has limitations due to it needing Bluetooth connection to other Galaxy devices. Also expected that it might use a flexible display, but the watch came out with a flat screen, and the 25-hour battery life is also expected to be one of the drawbacks. With much attention on future wearable computing devices, a lot of focus is on whether smartwatches will lead a new trend in smart devices.
And with that, the competition in the smartwatch market is heating up. Joining us is Professor Kim Sung-guk from Yonsei University. Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Now, Samsung has been labeled copycat by certain publishers or certain internet companies there, but it seems that this time they're the ones that innovated, and it's the competition that's catching up. Now, how significant is this move for Samsung?
Yeah, up until now, Samsung has been the fast follower, and it's in the computer industry. But now, Samsung want to change their strategy, I think. And I'm not saying that Samsung is the first company who developed this smartwatch. There are already smartwatches from other companies like the Pebbles. But the smartwatch is in the very early stage. It's kind of the exploration. And now Samsung want to join and then also lead to this new experiment. So this shows like there's very strong interest, and then there are some new strategy.
Right. Samsung is trying to be the trailblazer there. Now, but I still don't know about making my phone call with the smartwatch. Will this catch on, do you think?
Well, sometimes, it depends on the users. Some users will not make a phone call, but you can accept it very easily. For example, you can accept a phone call while you're driving or while you are running on the treadmill, right? So it depends on the users and the situation.
So, it's not a standalone device, the Galaxy Gear, but why is launching this device important for Samsung at this point?
Yes. So the many wearable devices like the smartwatch or like a Google Glass is not standalone devices. The reason is it has a very limited form factor and a very limited battery and the communication technologies. So it's kind of augmentation and expansion of the smartphones and the tablets. But it shows like how we can deeply integrate with like these smart devices with like our everyday life.
And what are some of the challenges that lie ahead for these smartwatch to be more prevalent?
Yeah, the thing is nobody knows what the smartwatches should be like yet. So the problem is, even the users don't know about this. So, and then even the companies don't know about this. But the users will react to these new products from many companies. And I think sometimes the first movers can fail because they don't know what to do. But if they can pick up the feedback from the users quickly, and then if they iterate their products fast and fast, then they can release the second and third generation products based on like new users' needs and the user cases. So it should be very, very important to get the feedback and release a new product.
So in a broader sense, I guess, will be symbolizing the fact that more of these devices are being embedded to our everyday lives. It's penetrating into our daily lives. And it's also for other competitors as well.
Sure.
Well, now I
The
see.
moment of truth, I want to ask you, will you buy this smartwatch?
Are you interested, Professor?
I don't know watches.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good
sneaky
answer. Right? Try to duck the question
Very
there.
neutral
Huh?
there. All right, thank you, Professor, for joining us. That was Professor Kim Sung-guk from Yonsei University. And it seems that we had information and communications technology at your fingertips. Now it's just on our wrists. And still ahead on Korea today, if you are going bald or if you see signs of thinning hair, you might be concerned. Do you see patches of hair thinning in the mirror? Once hair loss begins, it continues to progress. So today we look at how to keep your scalp and hair healthy using some simple methods.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all, and a Tuesday all the football fans here in the nation have been waiting for, as the Korean national football team is set to face off against the 8th-ranked Croatia later tonight. Of course, an impressive victory over Haiti last Friday, scoring 4 goals in the match, but that was Haiti and this is Croatia. Now, the big names aren't available for Croatia in this match, such as Luka Modric of Real Madrid, but this is a very talented team nonetheless. Now, Croatia has a very balanced team with top offense and defense, but Korea needs to watch out for their quick counterattacks. Meanwhile, while the Korean offense will be focused around Son Heung-min, it's Lee Chung-young who's going to be making all the plays just like he did against Haiti last week. And the match will kick off at 8 p.m. at the Jeonju World Cup Stadium. And moving on to the KBO, where all 9 teams took a break from baseball on Monday night. So let's take this time to look at the standings so far this season. Now, less than 20 games left in the regular season now, and the LG Twins now have a 1-game lead over the Samsung Lions, who are in second place now after the 2 teams split the 2-game series over the weekend. Meanwhile, the Doosan Bears clinging on to their 3rd place spot, just 2.5 games back of the LG Twins, but only a half-game lead ahead of the Nexon Heroes, who are in 4th place after Nexon swept the 2-game series against the Doosan Bears over the weekend. And now over to the bottom half of the league, the SK Wyverns climb all the way up to 5th place now, 1 game ahead of the Lotte Giants, who are in 6th place, with both teams still looking to make the playoffs this season. Kia Tigers, having a terrible second half of the season, are 16 games back of the league leaders, with the NC Dinos about to surpass Kia and the Hanwha Eagles, where they've always been, in last place. Well, this past weekend was good news for all the wrestling fans, but not so much for the baseball fans around the world, as baseball failed to make it back onto the Olympics. But it seems like everyone's pointing their fingers at the MLB for baseball losing out on the bid. Now, fans believe that it was Bud Selig and the Major League Baseball office that led baseball and softball to fall out of the race for the 2020 Summer Games. The league has long been against the Olympics, citing that it's affecting the season negatively. The 162 games being played throughout the season, taking a month off due to the Olympics, will lead to the season ending in December, considering the playoffs end towards the end of October. And staying in baseball, with Ri Hyun-jin out with a minor injury, the LA Dodgers were powerless against Choo Shin-soo and the Cincinnati Reds, as the Reds swept the 3-game series. All very close games, though. Now, Choo Shin-soo, meanwhile, continues to get on base this season, as he's still fighting for the top on-base percentage spot against his teammate Joey Votto. And on a side note, Ri Hyun-jin is set to make his next start after missing his last start due to a stiffness in his back. And so with that said, we're going to move on to golf, where Park Geun-hye still has a chance to complete a season Grand Slam, with the LPGA Avian Championship kicking off later this week. After missing out on the British Open title, the 25-year-old golfer still has a chance to become the first golfer to win 4 majors in a single year.
Although the Avian Championship wasn't added to the list of majors until this year, pundits say that a major is a major, and they still have give her the nod as the first Grand Slam winner if she takes the title over the weekend. And with that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your Sports Deets.
Well, many people are concerned about hair loss, both men and women, and many people do seek treatment for thinning hair or even hair loss in general. But surprisingly, the majority of patients are patients in their 30s.
And joining us to tell us more is dermatologist Dr. Yoon Sung-eun. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us a little bit about hair loss.
Well, we could lose hair every day, about 50 to 70. This is quite normal. But if you lose more than 100 a day, then actually it's a problem. Especially losing hair in a younger generation, it could be a further, lead to further stress. So if you have hair loss in your younger generation, it's important to get it treated as soon as possible.
Okay, we'll take a look at this next video to learn more about hair loss. We'll be right back.
Even for the most good-looking people, loss of hair can cause them to look older and less attractive, which is why people who are seeing hair loss or alopecia experience extreme stress. Recently, the number of patients seeking medical help for hair loss has jumped by 17% over the past 5 years, roughly a 4% increase each year.
These days, we're seeing not only genetic hair loss, but conditions caused by late-night sleep patterns, excessive eating habits, and too much stress.
Hair loss can usually be categorized into alopecia areata, androgenetic alopecia, and telogen effluvium. Androgenetic alopecia causes the thinning of hair in which the hairline recedes from the forehead, leaving an M-shaped hairline. It stems from DHT, a male hormone, and is congenital. Alopecia areata appears in round patches of baldness on the scalp. It is an acquired condition caused by drinking, smoking, and irregular lifestyle patterns, but the hair loss can be recovered through treatment. Hair loss may seem like a light health problem, but once it begins, the condition continues to progress, which is why early detection and treatment is important.
There's oral medication and ointments that can be used to treat alopecia. These drugs are effective in the early stages of hair loss, but when conditions have deteriorated, you can also have your own hair transplanted.
In the case of alopecia patients, most of them have dead skin cells and infections on the scalp. Scaling helps to remove this, deterring the growth of germs and keeping the pores clean to assist with treatment. Acupuncture on the scalp is used to stimulate blood circulation and bring down the heat levels in the scalp. It also helps relieve fatigue in the body.
In Oriental medicine, we refer to a healthy body as 투한조결. This means a cool head and warm legs. If the kidney, which controls the heat levels, becomes weaker, the heat rises to the head and causes the loss of hair.
But the most important factor is looking out for symptoms of hair loss and preventing it. If the width of more than 4 fingers fit between the top of your eyebrow and your hairline, if you are detecting itchiness and breakouts on the scalp, and if you are losing more than 100 strands of hair when you wash your hair, this could be the first signs of alopecia.
An easy way to prevent hair loss is by keeping your scalp clean, because an unclean scalp can often lead to alopecia. Washing your hair once or twice a day can be very helpful.
You can make natural Oriental medicine shampoo by adding water from boiling hasuo, tanggi, and gugija, which are all good in treating hair loss. can also make an all-natural scalp spray to help keep it cool and clean. Mix anhydrous ethanol with rosemary or peppermint herb essences, which help soothe the scalp. By stimulating pressure points related to hair loss regularly, you can also prevent alopecia and keep your hair healthy. Push down on the pressure points with your fingers lightly or tap on your scalp for stimulation. Maintaining a healthy scalp with some of these tips in mind can help you keep your hair in good condition as well as prevent hair loss.
I think the general consensus that I heard was that if your mother's father is bald, then chances are that you're going to go bald. So is there a genetic link? Is hair loss genetic?
Yes, many people believe that the hair loss is genetically handed down from your father's. So father's side.
Father's side, okay.
Yes, every other generation of the father's side. But the new study was made by Ohio Rice State University that both your mother's side and mother's side are relevant.
Okay.
And it's not only your parent to children, but also across 8 cousins.
8 cousins?
Yes.
Cousins.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there seems to be an increase in women with hair loss as well. Why is that?
There are three factors. Their imbalance is hormone and nutrition and immune system. So if you have hormone, you can have hormone therapy. But if you have nutrition problem, you can take iron or zinc and selenium and protein. And if you have weakened immune system, you could also take omega-3. That could be helpful.
Omega-3, I'll
Yes.
take note of that. Does it make a difference whether you wash your hair in the morning or in the evening? Which is better for you in order to...
Usually people take a shower in the morning, but if you don't wash your hair in the evening because you use a hair gel or other stuff, and pollution and many other things are stuck in the pores of your scalp. So it's better to wash your hair in the evening.
What about the shampoos? Is there, because I know we have shampoos specially made for preventing hair loss, but are those effective?
Oh yeah, they're very effective. But when you choose your the shampoo, it all depends on the condition of your scalp. If your scalp is dry, you need to have a moisturizer and you
brought
this
something
kind of
for
thing.
us.
So we can also spray on your hair. This is a moisturizer.
Okay.
So these actually work.
Is this something you might be interested
right at the
in trying
top,
out?
I'm getting a thinning thing going on, so
All
let's get
right.
it right.
Well, I can't.
You have to get it right at the scalp, so I'll just open
I
that.
can't get it to work. Oh, there you go.
Use strong fingers. Go ahead.
Okay.
So this will just help the blood circulation on the scalp?
Yes, yeah. Well, so moisturizing is very important. But some people have oily hair. Then you need to have stronger substance to clean your hair, scalp. And when you talked about the functional shampoo to prevent hair loss, they actually give nutrition into the scalp. So you have to choose according to your scalp condition.
Okay, one last question real quickly. What about perms and dyeing your hair, bleaching your hair? Does that have an effect?
Oh, it does, because there's a substance called PPDA in a coloring agent, which leads to itchiness of your scalp, and you can also lose hair at the end. We forgot to mention about the blow drying. If you use blow dry, you need to have a cool air, which is better for your scalp health.
Oh yeah, that I've heard of before.
All right, well, sounds good. There's
And
some tips
we
there.
forgot about the hats. If you wear tight hats, it blocks, the air doesn't get into the scalp well, so you need to take, some people, because it can increase sweat in your hair and scalp.
So no hats. It's going to dampen the hair and it's going to block the air from air ventilation in your up in the head.
That will lead into infection and then lead into the hair loss. So you need to, you don't, wearing hat too long is not good. Or if you have to use hat very long time, then you need to have a very good care of your scalp.
Okay, so rule of thumb, keep your head clean and cool, and
no hats.
No hats.
Thank you, doctor, for your time this morning.
Thank
so,
you.
yeah, you heard the doctor. If you're suffering from hair loss, no hats and no showers in the morning. So hold on to that shower put it off until the evening, right? So if you're heading out.
All right, have a great Tuesday, and that's all for our program. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.